Our top focus on WION at this hour, a fiery statement from a senior Iranian leader adds to the tensions in West Asia. And this as military exchanges between Iran and the United States continue despite a ceasefire. Tehran is now calling the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz its nuclear bomb. Well, the Strait of Hormuz has long been one of the world's most critical energy choke points. Now Iran is turning it into a powerful symbol of deterrence. Iran's Deputy Parliament Speaker Ali Nigzad has declared that the strait is Tehran's nuclear bomb, arguing that its strategic importance outweighs its atomic weapon. Well, Nigzad's remarks come amid stalled talks with Washington, D.C. and lingering tensions over Iran's nuclear program. He insisted that Iran's position is clear and warned that the U.S. must either accept the new regional order or agree to Iran's conditions. Now, in a latest statement, the U.S. President Donald Trump says that he is not planning to withdraw the troops. Trump made this remark during an interview with NBC, where Trump also made strong remarks about the status of negotiations for a permanent halt to the conflict and his approach to a potential deal. Trump said he is looking to keep U.S. troops deployed in the region until completion. But amid these remarks, the question is, how does Iran hold an upper hand on the strait for U.S. geography? It will be one of the biggest hurdles that the Strait of Hormuz lies between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. At its narrowest point, it is just 33 kilometers wide, giving ships little space to make any maneuvers. The location also gives Iran over 1,600 kilometers of coastline to launch attacks if it decides to. Now, the rhetoric comes as military tensions in the Gulf show little signs of easing. The U.S. military says it shot down multiple Iranian attack drones that threatened international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. American forces also carried out strikes on Iranian coastal surveillance sites after what it described as continued Iranian aggression. With both sides flexing military and political muscle, one of the world's most important waterways is once again at the center of a high-stakes geopolitical showdown. All right, and to discuss more, we're now being joined live by Scott Lucas. He's a professor of international politics, Clinton Institute, University College, Dublin. Thank you so much, Professor Lucas, for joining us on the broadcast. Now, 100 days into the war, and if we were to judge the United States by its stated objectives at the beginning of the war, how successful do you think Washington has actually been in your assessment?
I guess the best way to do that is to compare where we were on February 27th, the day before the war, and where we are now. On February 27th, the Strait of Hormuz was open to ships from every country. There were no restrictions on movement. It was under the UN Conventional Laws of the Sea. As I speak to you today, on June the 7th, the Strait of Hormuz is tightly controlled by Iran. There are 1,500 vessels, many of them tankers, that still cannot get out after 100 days. On February the 27th, there were negotiations ongoing between the United States and Iran about limiting Iran's nuclear program. Whether that meant a complete halt to Iran's uranium enrichment or limits on it, Tehran was going to pull back. There was the possibility of discussions on Iran's ballistic missiles, on discussions about its ties with Middle Eastern groups like Hezbollah. On June the 7th, Iran still has its nuclear program. Still is able to enrich uranium. There is no sign of a deal over that. And Iran no longer has ballistic missiles up for discussion, nor are its ties with Hezbollah or the Houthis up for discussion. And then I think beyond that, while acknowledging the damage that Iran has taken, Gulf states, some of them close allies of the United States for decades, have taken serious damage as well. And on February 27th, we had a stable oil and gas market and a stable global economy. We now have an unstable oil and gas market and a very unstable economy because of the Strait of Hormuz and because of those retaliatory attacks on the Gulf.
Absolutely, and we understand that Iran has suffered extensive military damage. There has been loss in leadership, and there has been a continued economic strain, and yet the regime has managed to remain intact and also continues to exert pressure through regional escalation. Now, if we talk about the situation from Tehran's perspective, do you think it's in a position of relatively greater power and perhaps also has greater leverage than it did before February 28th?
I don't think it has greater power because it has taken damage, but it has leverage. Let me say, first of all, having worked in Iran, having taught in Iran, this system was designed for resilience, that if the leaders of Iran were killed, they would be replaced. The supreme leader has said that. That is precisely what happened. Even Donald Trump, in that almost incoherent interview broadcast this morning in America, acknowledged they have leaders in place. Iran still has a military which is in place. It has about 60 to 70% of its drones and missiles still intact, and it is unburying sites where missiles have been trapped underground because of the ceasefire. So Iran still has a significant military capability. It still has a political leadership, and it still survives economically, even though it is hindered and faces serious problems economically. And remember, for those who say that Iran is on the point of economic collapse, that the Iran-Iraq war lasted almost 9 years before the Iranians finally gave up. We're only on day 100 here.
Right, we hear you, Professor Lucas, but of course we'll have to wait and see how this situation develops. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.